Welcome to the Toddcast. This is another episode. Obviously, I'm coming from my little studio here in New South Wales, and I love this sign here. It's not over when you lose, it's over when you quit. And I think that's a really, really strong message out there for everybody, is that failure has to happen. We need to continue to fail over and over and over for us to grow, for us to learn. But if you never, ever, ever quit, eventually you're going to win. So let's get into it. So what I really want to talk about today is 4 years ago, there was a guest speaker here in Australia, and he was quite a high profile media identity, and he was going around in the mental health space around our country, and he was selling out auditoriums, community halls, etc. On the back of his mental health story. And I got invited to one of his shows, and I was really looking forward to it. I was really curious to see what his story was, and more so what people got out of it and what they took away from it. So the tickets were $200, and I reckon there was probably 100 people at this particular talk that I went to. So $200 times 100, it's 20 grand, right, for a talk. And the talk only goes for about an hour. It's not bad fucking money. It's not a bad fucking day out, right? And so with this guy that we were going to see, obviously being a celebrity in our country of Australia, his name alone is probably selling out these auditoriums. But to travel across our country and talk in the mental health space, again, I was super excited to go and hear his story. So we arrive at the event. He's got this beautiful slideshow set up, really nice auditorium, very professionally done, professional editor, everything being filmed. Everything looked amazing, like I was going to go and see Mel Robbins, which I've done. As he came out on stage, introduced himself, gave a brief overview of how the talk was going to go, I remember thinking to myself, I really hope I don't offend anyone out there, because everyone's journey is important to them because it's their journey. But in terms of life experience and heartache, pain, coming back from the depths of hell, I couldn't really see where this celebrity had had too much hardship, but I was curious and I was open to listening. As he talked, as he told his story, it became really apparent that, put it this way, if the regular person on the street was to tell this story, no one would listen. No one would come. And if I'm being honest, I was super disappointed in the presentation in general. But this guy's story really wasn't one of too much heartache. So to be going around our country making a really big living off it, I left with a pretty average taste in my mouth. And as a keynote speaker myself, when I do go into organisations and I deliver my journey, it's one against all odds, and it resonates with people because I give them parallels and I show them ways around what resilience looks like. To be able to deliver that in an organisation, show human beings that we're all capable of change. That's where I feel really comfortable delivering my journey. And I just can't see how this guy feels comfortable taking people's money on the back of what he calls a heartache story, and then travelling around our country into other towns, especially little country towns, selling out these places. And the talk itself is a little underwhelming. So we get to the end of the presentation and he opens up the floor to questions. And I wanted to be one of the first people to ask a question, so I put my hand up straight away. And they come around and they got to me. And I just said simply, listen, I want to ask you a quick question. When you do these talks and you finish up, what do people get when you leave? And he looked over at his cameraman or his producer or his mate or whatever it was, and he looked back at me and he said, well, they get the opportunity to come and meet someone who's quite popular in our country, and someone who they can see that mental health doesn't just discriminate to the average person, it also applies to us higher profile people. That already put himself at a different level to the general person. And so I didn't continue with that question. I just took that answer and I listened to the other questions as they went around, but there was really no takeaways for the audience to walk away with. And so I remember thinking when I left, it's all good to be motivated and inspired by these talks. I mean, we can all tell a story, but what happens tomorrow when you wake up and that talk's all done and dusted, that person's gone and left town or left that organisation or left your workplace? What happens when you wake up then? Like, what have you got? What tools and what actions, what steps even have you got to implement in your life on the back of what that talk was all about? And there's really nothing. When I went to this presentation, I was very, very new in my Love Your Mind movement. My story, my journey, how I was rebuilding myself into the man that I am today, I was always going to get in front of organisations and share that around the country as well. But my point of difference is this. When I come into the organisation and I talk, I give parallels and I give people real life examples of where they can make change or apply what I'm teaching into their own personal lives, their staff's lives, or into their company. But not only that, my point of difference is a 21-day course which I created with my marketing manager. We sell it online, but I have the ability to leave that in the organisation or establishment so that employees, athletes, whoever, they have structure, they have stability, they gain clarity in 21 days through the course that there is hope to feel better. And you can start winning the war against this guy and that pandemic out there called mental ill health. And the 21-day course is called the Shield Operating System. Here's my little personal shield. And that's my point of difference. So when I come into the organisations, I deliver an extremely powerful journey from rock bottom through the depths of hell, from that 6-year-old boy right through to who I am now, and everything I lost and everything I rebuilt to become the man I am today and to run the business that I run today. And I have all the parallels and the principles that you individually or staff can implement into your daily routine and start finding happiness in your life. And so if you are an organisation out there and you do feel like you want a guest speaker to come into your organisation, but one that comes in and actually leaves you with tools and resources and the ability to implement a new course into your life, just reach out and I'll show you exactly what the framework looks like and statistically what it is doing around our country and in organisations and improving productivity, improving their revenue, improving their safety. That's a huge one, so that employees, staff can all go home safely, but know what their structure looks like the next day, and then they've got a choice whether they want to implement it in their life or not. But it's definitely worth finding out. Anyway, that's another episode of the Toddcast. I'll leave you with this. If you've ever done any type of sport, or you've ever been any sort of athlete, or you've watched any of those YouTube self-motivation clips, you can get motivated and you can get inspired really, really quickly. But what happens when that motivation, that inspiration wears off? You're faced with yourself and you've got two choices. Either step up, make changes in your life and start implementing the harder choices which ultimately serve you with an easier life. Or you can keep doing the same thing over and over and nothing changes. And that's my point of difference.